The following program on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 is a paid advertisement. The views, statements, and opinions expressed are solely those of the host, guests, and callers, who are entirely responsible for the content of the show and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Max Media, LLC, or its staff, management, or sponsors.
Welcome to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua is here to share market facts, the fundamentals of selling, buying, owning, and improving your home, plus interesting experts. Now, here is Paul.
Good evening, folks. This is Paul Fuqua. Once again, I'm hosting the Real Estate PB&J Hour, and the purpose of this show has been to share real estate news, advice, and experience to help you make sound decisions on one of the biggest investments you'll be likely to make in your lifetime, and that's your home, in terms of just pure dollars and cents going out for any one item. I've been lucky enough over the past quarter century, gosh, that sounds like I've been doing it a long time. As a full-time realtor, I've been able to help hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of buyers and sellers and investors find a house, sell a house, invest in property, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I also enjoy the fact that today my co-host is once again Kim Pimento, managing broker of the Greenbrier office of Rosenwomble. Now, Kim is a little tired today because at dark 30 this morning, she was out, and I helped her, loading turkeys. You want to describe what happened today?
Well, I think I got there about 8:30 just to kind of see how it happens. But Rosenwomble does their annual turkey brigade that is funded by the Rosenwomble Foundation. 100% of our donations and money that we get in there goes to service, the Turkey Brigade and other foundations, scholarships, things like that we donate to. But anyway, we made 3,500 full turkey dinners for people in the area, and that includes Suffolk, parts of northwest part of northeast part of North Carolina, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Portsmouth. So it's an exciting day, and it's very busy to see all that food come off those trucks for 3,500 people.
Yeah, 3,500 full turkey dinners. And Believe me, I took my Suburban out there to carry the turkeys. That was over 600 pounds of turkey. And I went around the first corner in the car, and the car started leaning a little bit. Wait, I better slow down. So anyway, it was fun.
Our office delivered 45 of those.
That's 45 families.
And some of our office went to other areas, but yeah, so it was nice, and it's always nice for people to see their smiles on their face when some of them really, really appreciate it.
Anytime you can reach out through your business and through your profession and help people, it's very fulfilling. It's one of the great things about being in the real estate business, and that's the joy you see in people's faces when, one, they're selling a house that they've wanted to sell, or two, they've bought a house that's a dream for them.
Exactly.
And I don't know how many times I've been told by my clients that this is the last house in our lifetimes. 7 years later, I get a call. Paul, we found another one. Yeah. What do you think? Or we decided.
This is our real last house.
Yeah, this is our real last house, and they never are, unfortunately.
Some people just change their minds. I know a lot of people that moved into those like active 55 communities, and then they wanted out.
I did.
Yeah, I mean,
it was awful.
I think you see that, and then you want it, then you get there and you don't want it, but you don't want the yard again. So I think especially when you're coming to that age of downsizing, it's one of those double-edged swords. You want to downsize, but you really don't want to downsize. You don't want to admit you're at that part of your life, but yet you are. So it's kind of
it gives you a great opportunity to get rid of the stuff.
Yes,
all that
my
stuff.
Goodness.
I just sold a house for a man who'd lived in his house for 40 years, and he's a collector of many things, eclectic, and his packing up was torturous for him. I can appreciate all he went through, and I was there for hours when he would be telling me the tale of this piece or that piece, and my grandfather had this piece, and here's something else, and here's documentation, and it went on and on and on. And you've got to be very nice to people, and especially a wonderful client as he was or is. And you have to come to appreciate what things mean to people.
Yes. Yes, and some people just attach a lot of emotions to their things.
That's the toughest part, I think, of selling a house. Is
yes.
having to deal with the emotional impact of the memories. And I always tell people that the house is an inanimate object, but the memories that house helped you create will stay with you forever. So carry the memories, leave the sticks and stones and brick and beams alone. They're going to be somebody else, and perhaps more happiness will be generated in those rooms.
Right, yes. I think
anyway,
so.
Well,
houses do have personalities, I think.
They do. I know mine certainly does.
Good, bad?
Yeah, well, it depends upon the time of the day and my mood. But part of the job that we've tried to do for the past 43 weeks, this is the 44th show. And by the way, folks, this is going to be the last show for this year. We are considering bringing it back next year. I'm not sure as yet, but we're going to take all of December off. And if I decide to re-up, we'll come back, and if they'll have me here at 13:10 a.m. I'll have to ante up, and we'll see what can happen. But so today is with a little bit of sadness and at the same time some joy that we're bringing 11 months to a close. But all this time, what we've tried to do is dispel the many myths and misconceptions and misstatements that seem to filter into every discussion of real estate. That whether it's at the poolside or on the golf course or at the local pub or at the back fence or during a barbecue, they're any one of a number of venues where people love to talk about real estate. It's like the weather, and especially when the real estate market is hot. Right now, it's simmering. It's not hot. I will be blunt with you.
Right. Well, people still want to know about it, though.
Yeah. Well, everybody's in real estate. Everybody's in real estate. You live in a house or an apartment, you are in real estate.
You own it. Yeah.
Yep. We've tried to make this show relaxed and to offer opinions and experiences that can help you. And we'd like to see and hear from you. If you have questions, it's always a thrill to get somebody calling in. I know Dino Franza, our producer, his smile gets bigger and bigger because he gets to take the calls.
Yeah, he has something to do besides listen to us talk.
But if you listen to this station or to any of the Max Media stations, Dino is he's big. He's ubiquitous.
He's the big wig.
We're really privileged to have that man.
Yes, he's got a great voice on the radio, too.
Yeah. Well, he and I share the same kind of face for radio. It's wonderful.
Same kind of face?
It's face for radio. We're not TV personalities. Now, see, you could make it on TV. You're attractive.
No, both of you can make it on TV. I think it's all about personality.
Well,
it's all about personality.
Yeah, well, sometimes when you grin, it changes your personality if people don't like it. Okay. The whole thing that we've always discussed is market forces, some of which we have control over, some of which we don't. And some of the significant information on the market. Now, we try and touch on national aspects of the market, and it's a little bit of a time filler. I don't know if we have anything of consequence.
Not much change.
Not much change, but I do know that there's a continuing trend in the real estate interest rates.
Yes. And they have actually changed just from last week. So today, as of November 17th, I just got these rates. Holly Robinson from Advanced Financial pulled these for me. Non-conforming, 2.25% with 1.3.
2 point?
No, I'm sorry, 6 point. Everybody was stopping their cars.
Yeah. You just caused a crash out there on 64.
Where does she work?
Yeah,
6.25% with 1.375 points, which that's a little bit. I think that's a little bit better from last week.
Yes.
I mean, nothing big to jump home and write home about, but at least they're not going back up. We're not at sevens anymore. Last week it was 6.625, so that is quite a bit with only 1.5 points. So that's a little bit of that's a downtick. That's a good thing.
That's the non-conforming.
Mm-hmm.
All right, jumbo loans.
Yep, conforming, and this is conventional loan conforming 30-year, 6.25% with 1.125 point. And last week it was 6.375 with 1.126 points. So that went down just a smidge.
Right. It went down, but it realized
just a smidge.
The lenders and they realized that the home building and home buying process is a significant part of our economy. So
right. I'm wondering if it's going to go down much slow. I mean, go back down much slower than it went up, because they really did.
Yes.
A client dropped in the office the other day. He said, you sold my house to me we closed a year ago last year. I said, really? So he talked about selling it. I said, well, you might want to wait on that. I don't know what are you wanting out of that? He said, well, I've got a 3.2 interest rate. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's just amazing that in a year, we've
less
gone
than that.
up.
Go look in March.
Yeah.
March and April, we were talking about 3%.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So conforming investment loans with a 25% down payment, 7% with 2 points. FHA, 6.375% with 1 point.
How does that compare?
Last week it was 6.5% with 0 points.
Right. So they've dropped the rate. But the point, however,
a little bit.
Remember that point in today's market. We're seeing more and more buyers request payment of closing costs, meaning loan costs, out of the sellers.
Yeah, and you remember a point is 1% of the loan amount.
Yes.
So that really didn't change. They just kind of moved numbers around.
And how about VA?
My opinion on that.
VA
is 6.5% with 1 point. Last week it was 6.5% with 0 points.
Right. So they've picked up a point. So rather than
they picked up a
bounce the
point
rate,
there.
because see. What do people talk about at the back fence? They don't talk about the points. They talk about the interest rate.
Right.
So these guys could conceivably drop it down to 5.75. Oh, look, it's a full point or 3/4 point drop in your interest rate, but we're going to charge you 2 points up front. Now, I've never looked at the tables to see when those 2 points start to amortize. Is it at 12 years or is it 7 years that it's now cheaper? Is the rate really kicking? And
right.
The biggest issue that I see is in terms of resales, that we have a significant percentage of our homeowners who have bought in the past few years during historically low interest rates. And when they want to sell and move to something else, and say a step-up buy, or they want to go from inland to waterfront, or they have some other desire, some other need for another house, they are confronted with the specter of an increased rate and an increased money going out every month without the same return in the value of the house.
Right.
It's a double whammy.
Yeah, it is definitely.
So there's a reason for the slowdown. Now, we can talk about that. Right now, there are, this right here in Hampton Roads, there are 4,036 active residential listings. 4,036. Last week, there were 4,073. So there's a decrease. It's not significant. It's 1%, but it's still a decrease in listings. Of those 4,036 that are on the market as active residential listings, 3,297 are single families, and 727 are attached homes. Condos, garden, co-ops, townhouses, quads, and other attached. It's one wall attached makes it an attached, correct? One wall? Mm-hmm. Okay. But because there are some places in this area where twin homes were built. I don't know.
Right, and just like a carport attachment or something like that.
And that still would be sold as an attached home, not as a single family. That's the MLS today. Now, I've said before, our counts last week were 4,073 total, 3,363 single family, and 710 attached. So there's actually been a slight bump in the number of attached homes that is available. But overall, it's a 1% decrease in listings on a week-to-week basis. Yet, the number of properties actually available, not under contract, not in a contingent status, is currently 3,232. That's a decrease. This is sizable. A decrease of 124 from last week's 3,356. That's a 4% decrease. Now, those are houses that are counted as active, but they're under contract. So we've seen that despite it being a holiday and despite the rates, there's still fairly significant activity out there in terms of buys. Just that we're talking about week to week.
Well, it's still cheaper to to buy than it is to rent, the way the rents have really gone up.
And that's nationally.
And with rent, you're paying 100% interest.
Yeah, you gain nothing. It's not even deductible.
Right.
That's the shame of it. And now, the number of actual sales closed last week. These are houses that have gone through the whole process. They've been under contract. They've had contingency removed, and now the money has changed hands. And that last week was 346. And the total count as of today, this was this morning, for November's closed sales off the MLS is 866. So we're in what day is today? The 16th? 17th. So we're past halfway. Now, all of October, total sales were 2,483. And we've seen this change. It's like September was 2,759, August 2,939, July 2,826. And then you get into June, 3,984, May 3,340, April 3,706. So you can see that the number of closed sales has definitely changed. It's definitely declined, and that's a large consequence of the lack of inventory. And that's why we're seeing the numbers stay very close, because we aren't selling that many, and there aren't new ones coming on. And it certainly is having an impact on the business of real estate. The mortgage loan people, Redfin, for instance, they shut down their purchasing arm because they've got an awful lot of inventory they bought 6 months ago that they can't sell, in part because the prices that they paid drive a higher price when they bring it back to the market. And they were paying at market, counting on a continued appreciation that the American public says, wait a minute, let's let some sanity prevail here. We are in a situation where houses appreciate because of consistent demand, and we're very fortunate in that regard, until there comes onto the market a significant uptick in new construction and in resales. I don't anticipate that in the coming 2 months.
Not in the coming 2 months, I don't.
But we're going to have a good Christmas, all right? We've got 2 minutes. We're going to lead in. What was the biggest thrill today? Let's go back to the turkey, because we're going to fill for a minute.
Okay.
What was the biggest thrill for you?
I think just seeing all the people out there loading cars, trucks, trailers, and walking away with that, and seeing how a couple of the people came to our office to pick up their baskets, and just that, they were all so appreciative. It was really nice to see that it was needed. And we had calls all day of people who didn't get on the list this year or need to be on the list. So, once the word is out, people need it. And the groceries are expensive this year.
They sure are. All right, now we're going to take a break, because you're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour with Paul Fuqua and Kim Pimento, streaming live on Money Talk 1310.com or 1310 AM 100.9 FM. If you have any questions, you can reach us at 757-497-1310. Now we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue discussing real estate and the market today.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
Well, welcome back. Thank you. You're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. Dino always does his lead in, and I sound redundant. But we are on 1310, moneytalk1310.com if you want to go to the computer, or you can look it up on the phone. And you can call in. We're ready to take any calls at 757-497-1310 and talk to us right here on the line, on the air. Now, we also have cached all 43 previous shows at YouTube, and the channel is the Real Estate PB&J Hour. As I mentioned earlier, we're closing down this year's shows with this broadcast, and that is going to be our source. And we may resurrect some of it, put it out on other venues and platforms, but right now, the Real Estate PB&J Hour is the source if you want to listen to my dulcet tones at some other time. Now, we always use this time of the show to discuss what we did last week. And last week, our primary focus was Airbnbs, which have become a major industry and an immensely successful publicly traded company, which was news to me, and it shows how bright I am. And because I'd always listened to some of my friends who raved about having used the services of Airbnb in their travels, and they spoke glowingly of staying in this place or that, and the marvelous Airbnb facility, and how interesting it made the trip, and how special the experience was, and how they couldn't wait for the next opportunity to travel and stay in an Airbnb. And, again, silly me, I'm thinking, well, this is some kind of new Marriott hotel disguised as a house. Now, Kim, you've had experience with Airbnbs. You've stayed in them.
Yes, several times. I like it. I recently stayed in one in Terlingua, Texas, down at the Chili Cook-Off, and that was awesome. And, very well stocked. Linens, toilet paper, even coffee.
Now,
creamer.
what was it, an
creamer,
apartment or a house, or what was it?
It was a little cabin.
Really? Okay.
A little house, like a tiny house.
Did it have a bathroom?
Yeah, one bathroom, a bedroom, and a loft upstairs that was a bedroom. Mm-hmm. You couldn't stand up in it, but you could kind of bend over, and there was a lot of space up there, but 2 twin beds.
Right.
But, coffee, creamer, coffee pots, very well-stocked kitchen.
Now, was this on somebody else's property?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did they greet you as,
No, it was all automatic. There was a automatic door code
really?
that you got, and it came, yeah. Yeah, it was really nice.
Well, did the owners come and clean up after you?
They charge you a cleaning fee, and then when you leave, you come. I mean, they don't come every day to clean,
right.
And then I have one it's scheduled for Thanksgiving weekend up at Luray, and that one was very well. I accidentally reserved one. I didn't know it was in Pennsylvania, and I guess I'm not very good at maps yet. But so got my refund back real quickly. Mm-hmm. They do charge you a $25 cancellation fee, but anyway, I had no problem getting my money back, and I've just been very pleased.
Well, we have in your acquaintance someone that we're thinking about trying to use for some kind of a seminar teaching opportunity who manages Airbnb facilities for the peers. And realize Airbnb, and I'm going to say it again, it was founded by 3 guys in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it
2008?
2008. And it's a publicly traded company. It's worth billions. It has offices worldwide. It has no facilities. They don't have anything to do with the actual facility in which you stay.
So they have no
sticks and bricks.
No sticks and bricks, but no liability either.
That's right. All they are doing is they've created a methodology for people such as you and me to make reservations directly with the owner and possible occupant of the facility that you want to use. It's not like going into the corporate world of Marriott.
Right.
And it's forced hotels, I think, to really refocus their approach to the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. There's a beautiful one here in Norfolk. I think it's in Camellia Acres. It's when you come in, and it's like a mid-century modern home. Oh my! It's beautiful. It's on the lake.
What is mid-century modern?
Oh, I don't know. It's angles.
Something built in the 50s?
Streamline. Yeah, it was built.
Lots
in the
of
50s.
linoleum.
This has tile, but it's a gorgeous home.
All right.
Gorgeous home, and it overlooks the lake, and then across is Botanical Gardens. I'm assuming that's kind of where that's located, right? But it's a beautiful home, and some friends of mine got married there, and I went the next day to the brunch, and so they rented it for the weekend. Got married there. It's got a big lawn. I mean, it's just gorgeous, and the people actually live in that one,
right? And so if you reserve it, let's say, and you want to spend the night, do you have to? You're sharing the house with the owners. Is that the way it works in some instances?
I think in this one you did, but they were back on the other side of the house. You pretty much have a certain area that you're in, and they
sort of like a mother-in-law suite or something along those lines. Well, I know way back when I was really active down in not the Outer Banks, but the mainland, leading the Outer Banks. I had a listing on 168, and it was a bed and breakfast. and the owners lived in the property on the first floor in a special wing, and then they had another smaller house that the rest of the family, the daughter and son-in-law and baby, lived in, and it was almost like a hotel from the standpoint it was laid out, but it was when they say a bed and breakfast, she served breakfast every morning, and then lunch and dinner wasn't part of the deal. And they also grew grapes on that thing. It was kind of a great place.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to make some income on your home. My favorite house in Portsmouth, which used to be an old utility station, you'd think that maybe it was an old fire station, but it wasn't. But anyway, the owners, it's a 2-story unit, and they have an Airbnb room with a small area there on the first floor, and they live on the top, but the people come in and out. It's just a bedroom. It's just for a couple nights stay. I'm assuming.
Do you remember when taking in roomers was a sign of economic devastation?
But when you say that, though, I think
well, that's what it is.
A boarding house.
Yeah.
You can be making meals for everybody. Yuck. Well, I don't want to do that.
That's what Airbnb has become.
No, Airbnb is not a bed and breakfast.
Okay. And it's not a boarding room.
Right. Now, you can advertise. I've seen bed and breakfasts on Airbnb.
Okay.
But typically, Airbnbs are not a bed and breakfast.
But it just, to re-clarify, now we're going over what we discussed last week, but basically Airbnb is a company that allows individual property owners to offer their houses for rent, but on a short-term basis, like 3 days or 5 days. I don't know. Is there a limit?
No, there's not a limit. In fact, I've heard the tip of you should, allow, 2. My in Luray is going to be 2 days, 2 nights.
And give me an idea. If say you're in a hotel, my wife and I are going down to Florida to visit her family over Christmas and the New Year's, and I know we'll spend one night on the trip in a hotel, and we'll spend $185, $200,
right?
Because it's that time of the year when everybody's heading towards Florida. But
I'm spending that in the little cabin in Luray, and it's 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, but it's got a beautiful view of the Shenandoah Valley, and you have an outside area you can come and go in, and a full kitchen, and so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, that's my idea.
It
of
offers
camping.
more.
That's my
kind of camping.
Yeah, that's camping. That's glamping.
Yes,
Isn't that what they call it? Glamorous camping?
Yeah, I think it's going to be beautiful up there.
Now, I know the criticisms that have been levied by the hotel industry is that this is basically cutting into their potential earnings, and that the landlords of the Airbnbs, their successes in rentals has proved to be a long-term. What have they? You've lost. I guess I'm trying to say this, folks. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm thinking of something else. But the Airbnb approach gives you a higher per night rental than a long-term rental. So many people taking their long-term rentals, the things they were renting apartments out at for a year at $1,300 a month. Well, they can make that $1,300 in 4 days or 5 days with Airbnb. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you make a lot more. You don't have the fees. I mean, you do have to pay the taxes, the hotel taxes, and other things, but
you don't
have the overhead.
Yeah. We know this. If you want to know more about Airbnbs and the regulations, please, you can reach us here at 757-497-1310. We'll take down your name and email.
Yeah, each city's different.
Yeah, every city has a restriction.
Or county.
And Virginia Beach is especially stringent, and they've enacted legislation that requires an overlay district. Norfolk is not quite so.
Yeah, Chesapeake doesn't. I mean, I know there's Airbnbs in neighborhoods in Chesapeake.
Yeah. So there are regulations. You are going into commerce, and you will have to pay business licenses and things of that nature. But in essence, if you have the facility and you want to do it and you want to generate income from an asset, an Airbnb may be something you want to pursue. And it can also enhance the value of the property. You have to keep your earnings records. Not only for the purposes of presenting a good picture of the property as an income source, but also for Uncle Sam. The IRS is going to come in. And I wonder what percentage of the house you can deduct when you're running an Airbnb with one wing? Is it just
I bet it's probably the percentage
the percentage of footage? It's like offices.
Yeah, probably like a home office, kind of like.
Well, yeah, the whole thing becomes a commodity that you're going to be selling that. Folks, the aspect of Uber and Eats and Airbnbs, all these that allow a method of commerce that we've not seen before.
The pandemic was definitely a watershed in history. It's changed us. It's just put a lot of what we knew is the norm is not the norm anymore.
Yeah, I look at some of the parking lots of major companies on Fridays, and there are no cars in it because the people are working 4 days or 3 days on and 2 days at home, or sometimes it'll be 2 days in and 3 days at home. My son was involved with a mechanical engineering firm in Columbia, Maryland, and I told him that I was going to be up in Washington. I'd be coming by the office on a Friday. He said, well, don't bother. Just come to my apartment because nobody goes to the office. And what are you talking about? He says, well, 2 days a week, we don't go into the office. We work from home, and we all have we're supplied the proper equipment and machines and software and all. It's all there, and they don't have to leave.
Yeah, that's what we're facing in our workforce. And I know companies are struggling with how do you create a community or keep a connection with your employees when they're working off-site. Yeah. And that's a big dilemma that our companies are facing today.
It doesn't. I don't know an answer. But it makes sense from the standpoint if you are dealing with data stream, you're dealing with communication. Why do you have to go into a stick and brick facility? You don't have to because this magic internet.
I think accountability. I think when you see people every day or you see your boss once in a while, it's like there's a little bit of in my opinion.
Yes,
a little bit of accountability there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I was fortunate in that I owned a printing company, and we produced, and we had to move paper, and we had to run presses, and we actually had to do hands-on. There was nothing that we did that could be done in somebody else's house.
But now it's all probably done on the computer.
Well, we were a beta site for Linotype Hell.
Right.
But the fact is that the size of the machines and the strength of the machines, you couldn't put it on a desktop. I mean,
right.
I spent millions of dollars for that stuff.
Some industries like that one, maybe you can't. You have to be there.
Yes, we couldn't run a press.
The shipyard,
remotely.
They have to be there.
Yeah, you got.
There's our industries that you have to be there. Plumber's not going to unclog a sink from his house.
Yeah, no kidding.
Not in today's world yet. But I do think that we're going to have to really face that. How do you keep a connection with people and form a culture within the office when you're not there half the time,
or even within the community, We've become slave to the keyboard and the mouse.
Right. Well, they say that people have to buy into the values, and that's one thing that Apple just really did very, very well. Is they wanted to beat Big Brother and create a computer that was just not impenetrable from viruses and all this stuff. And the employees really bought into that. And they also cared about their employees and let their employees have a voice. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be key. I think people want to know that you're mission driven and you have a mission, whatever it is, for the good of mankind.
Mm-hmm. Your mission statement has to include a global, some aspect of a global betterment, I think. But what is the purpose of a corporate structure? Let's come back to that. The corporate structure, the purpose is to reward its shareholders. And what I think is most important is to make certain that the employees of a corporate structure are considered and have the opportunity to be shareholders.
Well, they also should be considered assets. They should be treated as assets and treated well. And I think that's what people are looking for, is they want to be treated well and valued. From the janitor all the way up to the top executive, I think you have to feel valued.
But do you think that value can be easily expressed just monetarily?
No.
Or do you think should be and
It's
is
not
largely,
about the money, I don't think.
It's about the appreciation on a person-to-person basis.
Recognition,
Right.
flexibility,
Right.
happiness with their job.
Oh, hey! By the way,
What?
we were on what show? We were on television
great.
on the Turkey Brigade
On the Turkey Brigade.
on Channel 10.
On Channel 10, yeah.
I wonder if they'll run it tonight. Was I on there? I picked up turkeys today.
You were the turkey, Paul.
Folks, the truth is out. I am a turkey, and I really don't like turkey. I mean,
Well,
okay,
you don't eat your family members.
Yeah,
I understand that.
that Texas. Oh me, oh my! That the greatest television show, as far as I'm concerned, the funniest, and I
Is Dallas?
No,
JR?
WKRP.
Oh, yeah, that was Cincinnati.
That was Cincinnati, but the turkey show
Yeah.
when
he dropped the turkeys out of the helicopter.
and
They didn't. Les.
Oh, Les Nessman.
Yes.
Just actually, I'm going to give you a secret. Les Nessman is Dino's favorite character.
Oh.
Because I have heard from on Sly that he's emulated Les Nessman in his entire career. I'm denigrating you there, my friend. All right,
show,
look, we're going to take a break here. Enough of this selling this. You're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour with Paul Fuqua and Kim Pimento. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. You can reach us by phone, 757-497-1310. Bye.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
Well, folks, welcome back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. I'm Paul Fuqua with Rosenwomble Realty. I'm here in the studio with Kim Pimento, managing broker of the Greenbrier office, who is the celebrated semi-organizer of the Turkey Brigade for her office.
Yes, for my office only, though. That was quite an endeavor.
Yeah, it was quite impressive. And it's not often that a bunch of realtors get on camera. As I think Fox 43 or what is it, Channel 10 is reporting on the effort. Because 3,500 meals, 3,500 families.
Yeah, and I love the fact that 100% of what's donated goes back to the cause.
Right.
That's really something I really look at when I give donations.
Well, I have a question. Most of that is funded by the agents, correct?
The agents and outside donations,
right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Because I know I bought 4 baskets. For whatever
I did too.
It was, and there was a drawing in our office.
Yes.
Yeah, and I didn't win.
No, Carmen won.
Yeah.
Carmen Anthony won. But she's gonna put it back at the Christmas party and have us do a 50-50 with it.
Okay. All right. Now, basically, we're coming to the end of this year. We're coming into this is the last for 2022, last show we'll be doing. And I want to thank everybody for joining us in another episode, another of this ongoing onslaught of real estate trivia that we've been putting out over the air over the past 11 months. Kind of astounding. This started last January, and I didn't think it would last more than a couple of months, but it certainly has. And I've been very fortunate to have people on air with me, Kim especially, my good friend Bob Freck, my former partner Joyce Carcase, who was on for a number of months. We've always had Holly Robinson from Advance, and I've had a number of other lenders on. And I've always enjoyed the aspect of being able to exchange ideas and in a relaxed setting. And that's what radio does. Television, when I've done television spots and all, I'm very self-conscious of my looks, and they aren't that good. But TV, that's what TV does to you. Radio doesn't do that. It's you can project an image without having to worry about whether your eyebrows match, and mine certainly don't. I've had great guests on this show from
Mayor Rick West.
Yeah, Rick was my partner in this business for a number of years until his political career took off and he became a conflict of interest. We had Taylor Adams, who's a deputy city manager at the city of Virginia Beach and director of economic development. He's the Pharrell Williams guy who worked that out. He's wonderful. He's very knowledgeable about local government. We've had, let's see.
Cliff Hayes.
Oh, Cliff Hayes, yeah. He's a representative in the state assembly, state legislature out of Chesapeake, and John Ahern of Sykes-Bourdon. He spoke about trusts and things of that nature, if I'm not mistaken. No, he talked about homeowners associations and condo owners associations.
Right.
That was an interesting show. Go back and listen to that, folks.
Yeah. Well, John's always interesting.
Yes. We had Steve Crane of Dominion Electric. He's an electrician who's been around for dirt was first invented. He ran the Ford plant's electrical facility.
Wow.
And he's conveyed that or carried that kind of information and kind of knowledge into the private side. Bill Lane of Southern Trust. We had Dominic Lascaro who talked about trusts and wills and how they can affect your property over a period of time. We had a mortgage broker, not a representative of a firm, but a broker who, in essence, deals with a variety of suppliers of mortgage money. Greg Bell, who's very successful. And then we had Ron Foresta Jr. of Rosenwamel. Wait, what's his title? He's the general manager and vice president, or vice president and general manager. He's become a poobah, you know.
Yeah.
He spent a number of years, interestingly enough, on the floor as a trader in the stock exchange.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
I can't imagine that. I guess he yells when he wants to. Huh?
Well, you got to, you have to be high energy, high motor to do that business, be in that business.
Yeah, and we also had the environmental company on, Pollard Environmental.
Yeah, and he was, what was he talking about?
Underground oil tanks.
Oh yes, oil tank mitigation. That's a big deal, folks.
Yeah.
If you're buying houses, my house had an oil tank, and they had it mitigated. Basically, they filled it up with stuff that met, and then it had to be certified by the city. We've had some builders. We had Stuart Jones with Princess Anne Construction. Greg Murphy of Coastal Inspections. What is it? Coastal Inspection Services. Greg specializes in older homes. He lives in Norfolk in a 100-year-old house and is very familiar with the problems. We had Darren Perry, who is a good friend and client. He's also a builder on a spot basis, and Darren's family has owned a lot of property in the Chesapeake area, and we're in the midst of trying to help him develop that into something that brings affordable housing to the market. And he's also the owner of 3 Super Bowl rings. He played for the Steelers and was a coach for the Packers. And Joyce Carcase was at the time on the show, and she's from Pittsburgh, and she was thrilled to be with a Steeler. My God,
I bet.
And Darren and I have played golf together, and it used to be I could beat him like a drum, but that doesn't happen anymore. He's gone on and improved, and I've aged. But it was a fun show. And we had Michael Vernon of Flood Mitigation Services, who talked about the aspects of a home or a property that need attention in order to lessen your cost of flood insurance. And that, my friends, is going to become a major consideration as the area in this Hampton Roads continues to sink. I mean, we're suffering growth of flooding, not because of an influx of huge amounts of water, but because the land mass is actually sinking. Right. Do you know the geological background of this area?
We're all swamp.
Well, what created this? A meteor hit, and that was what created the Chesapeake Bay. And that's why we have the Pungo Ridge. Now, this is what I've been told, and I've done the lookups on Google. I haven't gone to the Encyclopedia Britannica, but the Pungo Ridge is an elevated edge of the crater that was created when the meteor smacked into the world and created the Chesapeake Bay. Wow. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
Now, that may be total BS, but that's what your realtor is telling you, and it may be real. But it's interesting because there are houses in the north end of Virginia Beach that are at an elevation that under FEMA regs do not require, it is not required that they have flood insurance, which is stupid. for anybody who's going to spend $1 million for a house
In
why
this
not?
area.
In this area. And that's one thing to be down in the Outer Banks where you're sitting right on top of the shoreline and you got waves crashing 20 feet from your pilings. We had Carl Underbink, who I've known for 20 years, and he is the penultimate photographer and creator of virtual tours and the Matterport 3D stuff, and he makes a quite handsome living when the market is good by being a very good photographer.
Mm-hmm. He is very good.
And I was one of his first customers when he first started the business. And I'll never forget when he was so proud of the fact that he now had a drone and he was going to be able to do aerials, because he used to call up Backus aerial, Gary Backus. He and his father operated an aerial photography business out of the airport there on 58. And they did all my aerials for me. But now it's cheaper to do them with a drone. And Carl has a drone. So we go down. I've got a nice little piece of property in North Carolina, and zoop, it goes up, and he all of a sudden he's got this quizzical look on his face because he's lost the drone. He has no idea where it is. He can see what it's seeing on its thing, but he doesn't see anything familiar, and he's not familiar with the area. There are no streets, and it's out of it. It disappears. It's gone, and he was never able to find it. Was $1,000. Poof, gone. And I'm certain somebody in some farm down there in Moyock who walked out in the backyard and thought this thing was dropped in out of the heavens, because they are weird looking if you've not looked at those big drones up close and personal.
They are weird looking.
Yeah, but they are neat, and they make them now where people can ride on them. We had him. We had my good friend Bob Parrish, who was the director of safety for Virginia Natural Gas, and his thrust was how to make certain that you don't blow yourself up in your house.
That's very useful.
Yeah, it did help. And as a matter of fact, there was an apartment that blew up. Was it local? I think so. It was on the news the other night where there was a devastation of an apartment building where there had been a gas leak and the fumes had accumulated and nobody paid any attention to it. And they didn't notice the stench. And that natural gas is odorless. So they put that smell in the gas so you can be irritated by it and bring it home. But I guess the whole thing is, I know I'm forgetting someone who was on the show, and for that I apologize. And I sincerely regret not putting you down if you were.
Oh, we had Lisa.
We did.
Lisa Chandler from the property management at Rosenwomble.
Okay. Who else? Did anybody else? Well, we've had Bob Freck on a number of times, and Bob Freck
he's a lot of fun.
He's a lot of fun, and I recommend him. If you don't use me, use Bob Freck as a realtor, because his depth of knowledge is quite impressive, and he is more than willing to use it for your betterment. And that's what we as realtors try to do. Our job is to protect your financial best interest to the best of our professional.
We had John's Brothers.
Yeah,
security.
We did. Yep, and that's a wonderful local firm owned by the Shawback family, and they've certainly done great things. Do they provide the coverage at our
yes,
our
at Rosenwomble they sure do.
Okay, and is there anybody else?
That's it.
Okay, well, it's amazing. We've got 4 minutes. 4 minutes for me to say goodbye for this year. Again, I want to thank all those folks who were part of the show. I want to thank the people who've listened to it and put up with it and comment on it, and the people who've called in. I especially want to thank Greg Bicaveras, who's been my, how do I describe the coordinator. Greg has put together radio shows and spots for me over the years and done a wonderful job. But I also especially want to express my appreciation for Dino Franza. The man puts up with the idiocy that goes on from this side of the mic. And there
we go.
And he always has a smile on his face, and he's always willing to cover up for the mistakes. But fortunately, we haven't had to beep out anything, right, Dino? Have we ever?
Not yet.
No, we haven't had to do that.
Yes.
Would you be able to do that?
No.
No.
I don't know. I guess you could.
And we hope that it's been a fruitful experience for you. I know it has been for me, and I know that I've enjoyed every minute of being on the air with the folks here. And it's especially gratifying when somebody says to me as I'm sitting down going over a listing, gee, I heard you on the radio last Thursday, or gee, you talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and what's that YouTube channel? And I'm somewhat distracted because they're doing a piece on Channel 10 right now that we're watching in studio on all the turkeys. And we were there this morning loading up the stuff, and to see it on screen, and again to come back to the fact that 3,500 families are going to be they're fed, but in a celebratory basis, not as a cast off. It's part of exercising your ability to be charitable and altruistic is to maintain respect for people's pride and make certain that it's not done in a fashion that is could be construed as disparaging or demeaning. Mm-hmm. And none of that occurs in this, because we're all families and we all have our own needs and desires. Anyway, get off that subject. I can turn off the TV. I hope my wife is taping that. I don't know if she is. Please go to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on YouTube. You've got 44 shows that you'll be able to scan through. If you don't like them, you can erase them. Not from my channel, but you can certainly stop listening to them. And I want to thank anybody and everybody who's expressed their appreciation for what we've tried to do for 11 months. And Kim, it's been a real pleasure this year.
Yeah, it has. What a learning experience. I've just really thank you for the opportunity.
It was my pleasure. And folks out there in Radio Land, thank you for being an audience. This is Paul Fuqua, the Real Estate PB&J Hour. We'll see you sometime next year. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.